At Royal Roads University, our campus is located on the traditional lands of the Lekwungen-speaking peoples, the Songhees and the Esquimalt First Nations. Of course, it's with gratitude that we live, learn, and work here, where the past, present, and future of Indigenous and non-Indigenous students, staff, and faculty come together. All right, and for today's session, we have some wonderful guests joining us here today. My name is Ariana Kondrasky. I'm an education specialist here with Royal Roads, joined by some wonderful folks. We have Dr. Wanda Kraus, who's a professor and the Global Leadership Program Head. Wanda, it's nice to see you.
Thank you. Nice to see you too. And everyone, thank you for joining.
Absolutely. We also are so pleased to be joined by Dr. Marilyn Hamilton, who's an associate faculty for global leadership. Marilyn, it's nice to see you as well.
I'm delighted to be here and joining everyone.
Fantastic. And we also are so pleased to be joined by Amanda and Luis, who are alumni from the Global Leadership Program. We're going to hear from all of these folks here in a moment. But first, I'll give us a little bit about Royal Roads University. So if you're not familiar with us, just a few notes about our space. So we have a few photos here for you. You'll see the top left is a photo of our Hatley Castle, and that is a famous movie set that's been used in films like X-Men and Deadpool. We have a variety of gardens and green space on our very large campus. You'll see to the right of that is a photo of our Japanese garden. We also have a migratory bird sanctuary on campus. So just to the bottom left, you'll see our Esquimalt Lagoon. And then we've been doing online learning and blended learning styles for well over almost 30 years now. We used to say 25, but actually almost 30. So the bottom right, that's an homage to that as well. And Royal Roads is also proud to be a certified Ashoka U Changemaker campus. This is an approach that prepares students as they address world problems, encourage others, and act for the good of all. All right, enough of me talking now. Now time to get to the exciting part. I'll pass it off to Wanda, Marilyn, Amanda, and Luis for our wonderful session today. Take it away.
Thank you, Ariana, and welcome everyone. I'm really grateful to be speaking to you from the Lekwungen-speaking people's lands at Royal Roads University and introduce the topic, the importance of community development in a time of metacrisis. I am the program head, as Ariana had explained, of the Global Leadership Program, where we work through and support the learning of how to address wicked issues in a global context. And so the topic of today of the time of a metacrisis is every time I mention we are in a metacrisis, it just accumulates where I'm thinking it is it's perfect timing, and things are definitely a metacrisis at this point. So I hope that the learnings that we introduce and share with you today will be of benefit. And at the end, we will also hopefully have a little bit of time for questions and answers, so there's also space for engagement. And with that, I will introduce Marilyn and have you introduce yourself. And over to you, Marilyn.
Thank you, Wanda. It's a pleasure to be here. I am an associate faculty, and I was back at Royal Roads in March, and I was really remembering how wonderful a campus that was. But today, I'm really delighted that you've asked me to come back and share what I offered as a workshop at that time, Activating Soul Power. And I'm at that time got the workshop, the class to develop an action research design for cities in metacrisis. And so I wanted to use this not only to talk about communities, but a community of communities, which a city is, and to share with you how I have been exploring approaching the metacrisis by activating what I call soul power. So I want to just say that here's what I'm going to talk about, looking at soul power in the metacrisis. As an action research set of questions, I want you to just hold in the back of your mind when I'm talking about the city or communities, what's broken? And so what are the consequences of that? And now what can we do? So Wanda mentioned that there's so much going on with cities that today they're fragmented, they're somewhat climate threatened, and we're getting a heat warning here already in Scotland where I'm located, and we're disconnected from our soul energies. So I would like to offer the possibility that we can discover what the soul is in one of the maps that I've developed for Integral City. The map is actually what I would call map 5 on my website if you go there. And what it means to restore soul connection is actually about engaging with beauty, truth, and goodness. We don't have time to go into the intricacies of this map, but let's just say that it's possible to evolve ourselves through beauty, truth, and goodness, and so that we can actually return to the source. If I think of soul, that's the essence of who we are. If I think of source, that's the energy that we evolve from. I'm sure that many of you would have different definitions of soul, but for today's seminar, let's just talk about soul in these terms. And so that when we're connecting with soul, we're engaging beauty, truth, and goodness. I developed this perspective by thinking about a map here that, again, is very detailed, but I just want to tell you that there is an evolutionary map here that actually starts with the beginning of our universe, which is over 14 billion years ago. And this map actually leads us through the crises that we're noticing that we're having today, through energy and water and climate and food and biogenetic ecological systems and our own psychocultural social systems. These are actually in an evolutionary lattice, if you will, a scaffold. And as we break one down, it's like a scaffold's steps falling apart. And so we're not able to hold the scaffold together. So when we think of metacrises being naturally stacked like that, I can say that I have been inspired by people like James Lovelock, who coined the term that Gaia is a living system. Our whole planet is a living system. And I was recently listening to Ian McGilchrist, who said that humans are very disconnected from our souls. And he was the one that proposed that we need to reconnect through beauty, truth, and goodness. And I realized, aha, the maps in Integral City lead us to be able to think and explore that way. So in action research, our questions are all really around the practices of what, so what, and now what. And I want to introduce these questions as kind of soul practices today. So the first practice I would share with you is what I call the master code, or Gaia's master code of care. And that is that we must care for ourselves so that we can care for others, other people, so that together we can care for our place, and all together we can care for our planet. So practicing the master code of care is one of the first and easiest practices that we can actually commit to. A next practice is to nurture what I would call human security as an ecology for peace. This map, or this diagram here, shows actually not one map. You can see our spiritual map in the center, but I have 4 other maps in Integral City, and they are all able to be shape-shifted from one to the other. And it's by nurturing the ecology that's engaged in each of these maps that allows us to feel that we can actually have the safety and security that we need for peace, and therefore to be able to focus on our soul. The third practice is actually focusing more on the peace and bringing in a way to resolve our conflicts and to heal our traumas. And I say that the way that we can do that is through the 4 voices of the community. And who are the 4 voices? Well, there are citizens. I'm sure that most of you who are here on the webinar today would say that they're a citizen of some community or some city. In addition to the citizens, we have business innovators. And so they're bringing a little bit of difference into our communities and city. And the differences that they bring enable the civic managers and the civil society, as the 3rd and 4th voices of our human hive, as I call it, to be able to work together, to be able to balance and be buoyant and resilient in our cities. I call our cities human hives because I've learned from biomimicry that's something that we should think about. I learned a little while ago to think about having the human hive represented and learning from the beehive. So these are biomimicry lessons, and that's actually where the four voices of the city come from. They come from thinking about the bees who are producers are like the citizens, the diversity generators are like the business innovators, the resource allocators are like our civic managers, and our inner judges are like the third sector or civil society. And we can think in communities and cities that we actually have a purpose, like a beehive has. A beehive has to produce 20 kilograms of honey a year. A human hive actually has to have a purpose, and that's what we're serving as our souls. So we have many ways that we can think about bringing soul power to the city. I can't spend all of my time on giving you the details today, but I will go through the next few slides to just point out to you that cities have intelligences, multiple intelligences like individuals have. We also have realities that would be the same on an individual level as on our communities or cities. And those are biopsychocultural social realities. And in addition to those realities, we have in academic terms, we would call it epistemologies, but in ordinary English is 4 ways of knowing how to appreciate the whole system. And that would be through our subjective and objective individual perspectives, and then our intersubjective and interobjective ways as collectives. We, through all this soul powering, can actually build the steps and stages that grow city capacity, that grow our capacities in community for soul power. And that leads us then finally to my last and all-encompassing slide that says that in order to mature the human species, we must move beyond the competition that we can read in our news reports every day or see on the TV into cooperation and collaboration. And from that basis, we not only have a scaffold, but we have a place that we can actually jump into a full way of activating city soul. And to conclude, I would just like to give you a little blessing. Since I'm in Scotland, this is fairly natural for us to do, but I want to give you a soul powering blessing. And this is, first of all, I wish you deep peace of the evolutionary flow to you, deep peace of the living hive to you, deep peace of the city's voice to you, and deep peace of the master code to you. So there's a few ideas of how to activate soul power in order to shift our metacrisis into metamorphosis. Thank you, Wanda. I hand it back to you.
Thank you so much, Marilyn. That was amazing. As an overview and foundation for the examples we're about to hear. So I believe, Amanda, you were next. Is that right? Let me just move these slides over. There we go.
It is me.
Yes, that is you. So over to you then.
Amazing. Okay, so I'm going to speak to my capstone research that I did when I was a part of the Global Leadership Program back in 2023. And it was about promoting human rights and protecting marginalized communities and how FIFA might create a blueprint for combating human rights violations in future World Cups. And this is kind of, just to kind of preface this, I feel like this is kind of perfect timing to talk about this, considering we're coming up on another World Cup next year, and there's a lot of things that are currently happening in the US that to me kind of show a little bit of a repeat of what happened in Qatar. So there we go. So first, I'm just going to speak about what the research was, a little bit deep dive, talk about the key findings, and then kind of the key analysis that came from that. So my research really explored how FIFA might be able to create that blueprint to prevent human rights violations in future World Cups using the 2022 Qatar tournament as the case study. Really looking at exactly what happened to specific groups of people. So that was included migrant workers, women, and the 2S LGBTQIA plus communities. All three are very close to my heart, two of which I am a part of in terms of the community. Really examining how governance in global sport could either contribute to systemic harm or could be utilized for a force for justice regarding these marginalized communities. So to explore this, I conducted interviews with people who worked in the intersection of sport, human rights, and advocacy, and included insider experience in FIFA and in different organizations that worked very closely with FIFA at the time. What emerged from those conversations was raised awareness, a lot of raised awareness on human rights concerns. So exactly what was happening at the time the World Cup was ongoing, but also the build up to the 2022 World Cup. And what came from it really was the concerns were there, but it was often heard a little bit too late to be able for FIFA to be proactive in adapting what was happening in Qatar. There was a big controversy. For those who don't know about or maybe aren't into sports, a big controversy that came from the 2022 World Cup is that there was a lot of racketeering and bribery conspiracies that came from Qatar being the host nation for the World Cup, that they bought their way in. And it actually turned out that a lot of the FIFA Executive Committee was proven indicted for these concerns that happened. So out of 13 executive committee members, 11 were actually let go from their position because of these concerns that were happening. So when the new committee came in, the FIFA president and the current FIFA president right now, Infantino, had decided to keep Qatar as the host nation. So a lot of controversy came from that, of whether it was, right to be able to keep them, given the experience that happened in choosing them within the bid, but also the human rights concerns that are happening currently, that were happening currently in Qatar at the time. So a lot of what came from those findings, the interviewees, they really expressed skepticism on what FIFA's intentions were and felt that they really lacked transparency. They didn't know what FIFA were doing behind the scenes and whether the promises that they had on their human rights policies were really being followed through. They introduced a FIFA 2.0, which really focused on building human rights at that time, but it felt like there was major gaps between what they actually wrote on paper versus what they were actually doing in practice and executing throughout that time. So a lack of accountability really came from those interviews. There was no real consequence for when harm was happening, or when the host country, so Qatar in this case, really was ignoring FIFA's human rights frameworks, and FIFA was ignoring kind of what was happening and going against their values. The decision-making structures, they excluded those that were the most affected. So in this research, that would be migrant workers, women, and those from the 2S LGBTQIA+ communities. They were not included at the table. They were not part of the conversation of what human rights is going to look like at the tournament for players, for fans, for those watching all around the world, for those coming into Qatar to wanting to watch a match, whether they would feel safe. And all of my participants in the research really called for an acknowledgement of the past harm, that FIFA had kind of created stronger accountability mechanisms and more systemic reform within the system of FIFA. So having FIFA really work with host nations to be able to help develop their human rights policies and be able to actually execute that in practice. In short, really kind of what it showed was that the policies exist within FIFA, but the power remained really kind of in very few hands, and it wasn't shared across institutions and through host nations as well. So in terms of the kind of key analysis, human rights are really reflected in global power structures. So FIFA's actions really are kind of mirroring broader issues in colonization, in capitalism, patriarchal governance, which really kind of created exclusion and injustice whilst the tournament was happening and the build up to the tournament. Events like this really the whole world is watching. So it really can serve as a platform for justice and awareness and more intervention within the system. Like I said, if power is shared so that they can have inclusion be a little bit more prioritized. Efforts were really often superficial. So they would, in simple terms, talk a big game, but not really deliver on that. And lasting change really requires deeply embedding execution within the mechanisms that they develop. And really, FIFA isn't just a sports body. FIFA works with every country where football is. And really should be held to higher standards. And in order for proactive change to really happen, it must be rooted in accountability. So FIFA really needed to take accountability for what happened within Qatar, going up to Qatar, including the indictments that had happened of executive members. And really emphasis needed to be on execution for those commitments and more transparent reporting. And so going into this, so right now FIFA's slogan is "Football unites the world," and I'm a big believer of this. Sports, and I'm biased because sports is my one true love. Football especially is my one true love, being from England myself. But this is their slogan: "Football unites the world," and it really does. It brings together different groups of people to be able to enjoy a sport or an experience that they have something in common with each other. Whether you are a migrant worker, whether you're a woman, whether you're a man, whether you're part of the 2S LGBTQIA community, everyone comes together. It's a common goal. Everyone wants to see their team win. You may hate the other team, you may hate the other fans, but at the end of the day, you're all there for the same purpose. So just a few things that I think need to happen now, coming up to the 2026 World Cup that is happening in Canada, the US, and Mexico, especially with kind of what's happening right now in the US. There's a lot of talk that FIFA are repeating the same mistakes as they did with Qatar as well. So as you can see here from kind of my little spider diagram, Football Unites the World is at the middle, and around it are really key ideas that I believe give meaning to that message if we choose to act with intention. So these ideas are kind of grounded in my research and kind of a little bit more going deeper into what I did my research on. So first one, like it really was made clear that the voices of those most affected were not included in decision making in the process. So really elevating local voices. So being able to shift to co-creation rather than from a top-down approach, really involve community leaders. That would mean involving, local associations involved in the sport, what it means for not just those players, but the fans, young players coming into the sport, those who are going into being scouted into a higher process, what that means for them, and being able to really bring those voices in and shape policies and the legacy that they want to create now going forward, and not reacting to outcomes. So what I mean by that really is bringing the voices in around the table, and not just say, so sorry that this happened to you. This is what we're going to try and do to make up for that, but be ahead of the game really with that. So next one, so create blueprints for global change. So really being able to use 2026 to a new standard. So we have the experience of what happened in 2022. If I remember the number correctly, over 6,000 migrant workers died in the building of all of the infrastructure in Qatar. which was the most we'd ever seen in any sporting event around the world, including the Olympics, including everything. And it was an insane number, and the living conditions for them were awful. They didn't get fed, they didn't get paid, all under the kafala system. It was quite horrific to research at the time, but also it kind of sticks with you. Does those numbers of how many people were actually, their lives were actually affected by it. So really being able to set that new standard when it comes to creating that blueprint for FIFA. So what it showing what it means to stay true to commitments and to their values. They speak a lot about in their new policies about driving change through football. And so what that means is being able to bring a community together and unite the world through football, as their slogan is. But if they can't stay true to the values that they're creating in their human rights policies with host nations, it's going to make really difficult for change to continue and for that to be a long-lasting change. So really being able to be community driven through this median of football is going to be what I think a really great way for FIFA to move forward past concerns that have happened in previous World Cups. Sport as civic infrastructure, so really using the World Cup as a catalyst for long-term community programs. So these tournaments cost billions and billions of dollars for FIFA, for the host nations, but really what does that mean for after the final whistle blows of that final match? Well, being able to, a lot of media attention comes through the World Cup, but after that final is done, it seems like everyone stops talking. It's gone. So we really want to be able to, we want to, how can we use youth, recreation, even arts, health, environmental stewardship to make that lasting change go beyond the final and for people to continue to keep talking about it. Normalizing athlete and fan activism. What we saw in the 2022 World Cup is a lot of bans happening, and FIFA came in and said, if you decide to wear that armband that supports the 2S LGBT community, you're banned, you're red carded, you're not playing in the World Cup. And that's a really hard position to put a player in. They have a belief and their values and their country and their team believe in this community and being able to assist them in getting their voices heard, but the institution telling them, nope, you're not allowed to do it, really from the fact that the host nation battled against that because they don't have, that's not within that host nation's values to be able to say, nope, we don't want that to be expressed here in our country. So really, FIFA should be able to, with their human rights policies that they have in place that are supposedly so fantastic that help push football forward and push communities forward, FIFA should really be fostering a culture where inclusion, dialogue, and compassion is the standard. If they want to, wave whether it be their country's flag or, the progressive flag, and wear armbands and feel the need to protect these communities, that compassion should be the standard to be able to say, yes, we can all exist together here at this match and still have the purpose of having a great time, wanting our country to win within that space. And FIFA really does have the power to be able to do that. So unity really doesn't require uniformity. It really requires humanity. We're all human beings. We really want to be able to believe what we believe and be who we are. And that's a really important aspect for athlete and fan activism. They want to feel safe coming to a space where they can watch their team and they can be who they are, and players as well. There's a lot of players who are maybe part of the 2S LGBT community and don't feel safe going there, speaking about who they are because this culture hasn't been created within the football community, really. And that really is evident within men as well, and not just women, as one of the communities I studied. Really real accountability. So one of the strongest messages I got in my research was that what FIFA says and what actually is happening are not interconnecting them, not matching whatsoever. Stakeholders, the people I interviewed really described kind of like a trust fatigue. Where big commitments are being made, everyone's really excited, and then nothing happens, and you're just feeling tired and exhausted of the same patterns happening over and over again. So we really need systems where communities can track progress and ask the hard questions and get real answers and get the transparent answers on updates on what's working and what's not working, and what are those next steps for FIFA to be able to address what's not working. Using visibility to drive action. So the reality that we're living in right now is that everyone has their own values and has their own beliefs and wants to fight for that. And there's so much validity in that, but we need to amplify that reality. So use that attention to support people and support those movements that are already happening right now to be able to make the world a little bit more equitable. As we learned in the Muggle program, it was Guy that said it, if I remember rightly, one small change can lead to big change. And so you being able to really amplify that and allow people the space to feel safe and have their voices heard and have that visibility is really going to help FIFA drive football forward. Rebuilding trust through transparency. So as I spoke about before, really being able to publish real-time updates of what's happening, what reports are happening, what are the timelines, what is impact assessments that are they doing, what's working, what's not, and not just a slogan of football unites the world. What does that mean? Like, tell us what that means. And even I did a little bit of research, and there isn't much on the FIFA website right now that's telling you what that means to FIFA and what that means for the world either. And then ultimately as well, like supporting youth as change makers. They're not just the future, but they are going to be part of the solution. They are the next generation coming up, and we need to be able to give them a real voice and real support and allow them the space to challenge that status quo by really giving them moments where they can lead the charge right now, because they, like I said, they are the future. And sometimes they're often, as someone who works in an organization that in sports with youth, they're often sidelined a lot and their voices aren't heard. And they have a lot of ideas, a lot of ideas and a lot of solutions that they want to be a part of to be able to move this world forward. And we really need to mentor them. We need to be able to fund them and learn from them, especially FIFA. If they're allowing that space for youth to be change makers, they're only going to get better and better as football continues on into the future. And so really, while football unites the world might be FIFA's phrase, it's only true if we can make it true. These ideas are just kind of a call to action, not just for FIFA, but working across different systems and sectors, how we can be a part of that change. And hopefully we'll see FIFA make some changes from what happened in 2022 to what could happen in 2026. What we do with kind of this information and how we can bring that to our community now, though, that bit is on us. We can have a call to action on FIFA all we want or on different institutions, but really what the now means is for us to make that change and step into community and really what can we do with that. Thank you. Thank you so much for everyone for listening. I don't know if I probably went over 15 minutes. I'm sorry, Wanda.
Well, thank you so much, Amanda. There was a lot in your presentation to connect to when we think about change. And I just want to highlight a couple comments from Marilyn in the chat that I think connect to her foundational presentation, which is she mentions that this is a perfect example. And I'm understanding that what you mean, Marilyn, is it's an example for so many forms of organization that we could be connecting to as examples for where we can create change. And I think your overview, I'll just insert, is so beautiful in your second slide here. I would just love to give this slide. I was thinking as you were speaking to every organization. And of course, I hope that PIFA has received this, Amanda, from you. But it's so beautiful. I have not seen anything like it before. Of course, it's specific to your passion, but I think a lot of organizations can really learn from every point you have here. And so to continue with what Marilyn has also said is it shows explicitly where we are disconnected, and that being from our souls through not being truthful, honest, not acting with goodness, and negatively impacting the beauty of the game. So the thing that, of course, you're speaking to and passionate about. And then your second comment, Marilyn, I'll just read out is, it's powerful what you're describing. It's if you're caring about these spaces, places, nations, teams, players, you're engaging all four voices in what you're presenting. And so in this is a lot. So to shift from manipulative competition to cooperation, collaboration, where we actually want to be. So I just wanted to highlight those few comments before we move to you, Louise. Can I ask you to introduce yourself before you jump into your topic, and looking forward to hearing yours as well. Thank you, Louise. Over to you.
Absolutely. My apologies in advance because I'm having a choppy connection. So hopefully it doesn't destroy this conversation today. So good morning, everyone. My name is Luis Gutierrez, and I am a Mexican immigrant to the Greater Victoria region. I originally came to study for the Master of Arts in Global Leadership at Royal Roads, and my family and I fell in love with this city, so it made sense to start thinking about Victoria as our new home and consider our involvement in contributing to a deeper understanding of the challenges around.
And I think, Louise, you have frozen, and maybe if you turn off your camera and come back on, that might solve the issue. And as we're waiting, just really looking forward to hearing Louise's research. And of course, these are two separate researches, Amanda's and Louise's.
This compelled me to keep working with the communities and finding new ways to improve our world from the local to the global. I am a board member with the Victoria Coalition for Survivors of Torture here in Victoria, and I also participate in the Public Policy and Advocacy Committee with the Chamber of Commerce of the Greater Victoria. And I chose to research my capstone on preventative measures for unhoused youth in this region.
And again, Louise, if you are hearing us, you did cut out. So we're shutting down our camera just for a moment. And maybe if you did, again, so sorry, that might help.
Liberal theory, all quadrants, all levels from Ken Wilber can help us make sense of this issue systemically. Even though I didn't use these models during my research, I have applied them to my capstone project.
Just waiting for Louise to come back. If you can hear us, you've cut out again.
One that tell us about deeper challenges across education, mental health, justice, family systems, colonization, and intergenerational trauma. I wanted to explore.
And if our listeners can just bear with us with patience, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
young people toward on housing in our region, what preventative measures.
I wonder, Louise, I'm so sorry to request, maybe if you turned your camera off, I'm wondering if that also might be of help, or in fact, the biggest way we can hear your voice.
Participatory dialogues using Palar with youth serving experts and community members. And but like many of us doing community-based research, I ran into some realities, participation challenges, burnout among staff of the organizations that I contacted, and also the complexity of schedules in this sector. So I adapted and conducted. I changed my Palar work cafes method to 6 in-depth interviews with local experts working across indigenous youth advocacy, 2S LGBTQ, IA plus supports, legal and tenancy rights, mental health and trauma services, outreach and housing navigation, and also with immigrants and refugees. This method gave me rich qualitative insights from practitioners who see these issues every day. And here's what emerged from the conversations. On-house youth is a systemic failure. It's more than losing or not having access to housing, although that's also at the core of the problem, that we don't have enough affordable housing out there. It's also about the intersecting failures across education, mental health, care, the justice system, and family supports. We found that schools remain both risk sites and opportunities. Many youth first disconnect from school due to bullying, discrimination, or trauma, but schools can also serve as protective environments if we have the proper training for the staff, which we found that it is not the case at this moment. Unaddressed trauma and mental health challenges are major drivers of hidden unhoused youth, especially among indigenous, which is a population that is overrepresented in the unhoused population. 2S LGBTQIA plus youth from this community, they don't feel safe when they reach out for support in shelters or just community supports. They don't have specialized support for this community. And racialized youth, mostly immigrants and indigenous people. The legal knowledge gaps also leave many young people unaware of tenancy rights or options, especially when facing the risks of eviction, unsafe housing, or exploitation, or domestic violence. So grassroots organizations, often small, community-rooted, and culturally specific, are doing some of the most effective prevention work, but they remain underfunded and not well integrated into broader systems. So I think that explains the what, the so what, and now what. So if we can change the slide for the next one. So for the purpose of this presentation, I reflected on these findings through the lens of the integral theory AQual model by Ken Wilber to help me map where prevention needs to happen. And this representation that we also saw in the Marilyn's presentation and with Amanda, it depicts the interior individual quadrant, the exterior individual in the upper right quadrant, and the interior collective in the lower left quadrant, and the exterior collective in the lower right. So in the interior, thank you, Marilyn. In the interior individual, identity, mental health, we can find identity, mental health, trauma, and resilience, which is the perspective from the individuals suffering on housing. The exterior is what we can see, and it is oftentimes what is analyzed or researched, and the results of those research. And we can see that there's investigation and research on life skills, the tenancy knowledge, employment readiness, data, and point-in-time counts. In the Interior Collective, we talked about issues like belonging, stigma, and cultural attitudes toward unhoused youth. In the Exterior Collective, we can see how the systems of the schools, foster care, housing stock, of affordable housing stock, and legal system and social policies also have a crucial interplay in this. So what this shows isn't that no single program or intervention is enough. We need multi-level actions across these dimensions and levels and quadrants to truly prevent unhoused youth. So what does this point toward for action? We need more trauma-informed, inclusive training in schools where youth can feel safe and connected. They can start building their belonging. Early accessible mental health supports. This is super important, delivered in culturally safe ways. We need more youth legal education in such a manner that young people understand their rights and protections and ways to navigate family dynamics when conflict or violence arises, or when they see bullying also, when they suffer from bullying. We need stronger support for families and caregivers, especially during crisis. We need more flexible funding for grassroots, community-led efforts with clear preventative objectives instead of just attending to the effects of unhoused youth. We need cross-system policy coordination, breaking down the silos between housing, education, justice, and health, also with an emphasis on prevention and providing housing that is truly seen as a human right instead of just as a way of building wealth or assets. And most importantly, ensuring youth voices are truly centered in all of these efforts. If we ensure they have access to these multiple channels in schools, social media, organizations, and public institutions, then we can give them we can truly give them voice in this plight. To finalize, just some thoughts on how you this systemic signal is not an isolated problem. We can prevent youth from suffering on housing, and in the case of adults suffering on housing, it's only ways to ensure they have a quality of life, because it is very hard for the organizations and the systems to bring them to a state in which they can be housed again, and they can start rebuilding their life. So that's why it is so important to look at how we can prevent youth from suffering on housing. So in this case, prevention is possible, but only what we find in the conversations, in the interviews, is only if we act earlier and across these systems. And these frameworks, like what's the what, so what, now what model, and integral theory equal, can help us see the complexity and design more integrated responses. And I think that's my presentation. Thank you. I welcome your questions, your reflections.
Thank you so much, Luis. Again, a beautiful presentation, and I'm just really grateful and so honored to be able to, with Ariane and Karen, host these two presentations because they are amazing. And not only amazing, what I mean by that is you both have presented recommendations that I think need to be heard. Marilyn had in her chat just reiterated and really tried to emphasize, and I hope this is heard by those who need to hear, that these four phases or quadrants within that cool model really give that integral, as you mentioned, Louise, that integral perspective that's often missed. So I hope that can be heard by those who are working on this topic of unhoused youth and find something in there that can be of benefit, because I know many communities and organizations grapple with this issue, and it's a really difficult and complex issue. So with this, I just want to open the floor very briefly if there's any questions. I didn't see any further communication in the chat, but if anyone has any questions, here's an opportunity. And it can also be from, thank you, Lisa, great presentations. It can be from anyone. Going. Okay, gone. And what what I'll do at this point, and if there's, if we have time, I will jump in with questions. I don't think we will have much time, but Ariana, I'll turn the floor to you. I know there's a few words you'd like to share with us as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was such a wonderful series of presentations from all of you, Marilyn, Amanda, and Luis. Much appreciated. I'll just give folks some details if you're watching this. When you're thinking of applying to any of our global leadership programs, just some preliminary information if you are thinking of that. So at Rural Roads, to apply for our programs, we do have an online application fee. It is $136.69, and then we ask for things like supporting documents. So thinking about official transcripts, a detailed resume, personal statement, letters of reference, and some English language requirements as well. The personal statement, I'll just mention really quick, is almost like if you were applying for a job, it's like your cover letter, as I like to say. So kind of detailing, what do you want to bring to the program? What do you hope to get out of the program? What stands out for you? Of course, all the details are on our website on how to do this at ruralroads.ca, and how to apply, some more information on that as well. There are some key dates, so if you are thinking of joining us, we hope you are. We have some offerings for blended, so that's online and in person, or an on-campus offering as well. So for the blended, the start date is October 6th, 2025. Application deadline, I can hardly believe it. We're almost in July. Not sure how that happened. I feel like last time I said this, we were in like December or something. So July 6th, 2025. On campus in 2026, October 5th, 2026, and then the application deadline is April 5th, 2026. Some services that are available to you as well. So if you are looking for financial aid and awards services, so we have things like loans, bursaries, scholarships, awards, all kinds of research scholarships, emergency funding, all sorts of things. Financial resources, they're available to you. We also have our friends at enrollment services, so they can be reached at learn.more at ruralroads.ca. Then there's some also phone numbers, so local and toll-free for North America as well, if you want to give them a call. If you're looking to connect with folks, program heads, alumni, students, if you have questions about your application or anything like that, they can help you out. So learn.more at ruralroads.ca for that. And at this point, that's all I have to say. We're just under time, so I just want to say a very big thank you, of course, to my wonderful colleagues, Wanda, Marilyn, Amanda, Luis, my colleague Karen as well, and Lisa that are here. Thank you for your support, much appreciated. I'll pass it off to you, Wanda, one last time, if there's any last things you want to say to wrap us up here.
Yeah, thank you. I won't speak to the program because we have everything on our website. If you just Google MA in Global Leadership at Rural Roads University for more information. But I was curious and I had questions for you all. And we are almost out of time. I will say we do have 2 minutes. And so if one or all of you wanted to jump in within those 2 minutes, there were a lot of recommendations and I think they were all so bang on and so key. They can also be overwhelming, though, for someone who really wants to see change happen. And of course, this presentation is about change within communities. What is one recommendation you would offer for someone who wants to jump in to create change today?
Well, I would always go back to my Gaia's Master Code of Care, because it actually starts with you. And if you can remember to care for yourself before you care for others, actually, because many people forget that part, then you have the energy and the capacity to care for others. And then together you can care for the places, for the teams, for the youth, for all of those that we would really like to include. And also that all adds up to the planet. It's all fractal. So I love how both Luis and Amanda were able to bring together the integral perspectives and the model that builds in a fractal way. So congratulations to both of you. They were wonderful examples.
Beautiful. That is super helpful, Marilyn. Louise.
Thank you. I would say take small actions. The real change is made of small actions. So we just need to start acting.
I would say get involved. If there's something you're even slightly curious about, there will be something that is happening in the community that you can go to and just, even if you are there silently, or not as a volunteer and just attending, that's a piece of education that you can learn that will help, make decisions in the future. So get involved with just even the littlest events and things that are happening in your community.
Thank you. Thank you, Amanda, Louise, and Marilyn, for those last bits of advice that are precious. And yeah, we need to know what we can do today, and it's very often very difficult to know where to begin. So I think those are great starts for everyone. I just want to say a big thank you, a heartfelt thank you to the three of you. Marilyn, you've been with us for a long time, and I'm just so grateful for your wisdom and your knowledge and how freely you share all that we can connect to that we need at this time. Amanda and Louise, your work with the program and all you do today just is a continuation of who you are naturally and an example of what others can do. So thank you for sharing that and being the example that others can look to as well. And if there is anything, there's Lisa in the chat. Lisa saying, thank you, inspiring way to start the day. Yes, on our side, it is morning and not on everybody's side, but yes, it is an inspiring way to start the day and probably end the day as well. So with that, we are at time and I just want to say thank you, goodbye. Everybody have a beautiful day wherever you are.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Really inspired.